Only 1%. That's all it takes to separate mediocrity from greatness, weakness from strength, chaos from control. Only 1% of people wake up in a way that guarantees they own the day instead of being owned by it. And the truth is, the way you rise in the morning is not a small detail, it is the blueprint of your destiny. When your eyes first open, the battle has already begun. You either step into the role of a master, or you collapse back into the habits of the masses. And here's the brutal truth, the masses are not free. They wake up enslaved, to their phones, to their moods, to the random noise of the world. But the rare few, the 1%, they wake up with command. They wake up with intention. They wake up knowing the morning is the crucible where mental strength is forged. The Stoics knew this long before modern self-help writers ever existed. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, began each day with reflections, not distractions. He wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Notice what he didn't say. He didn't say, "When you arise, check your notifications." He didn't say, "When you arise, rush into panic." He grounded himself in the awareness that every morning is a sacred opportunity, a chance to dominate his inner world before being thrown into the chaos of the outer one. That is the essence of control, not control over other people, not control over fate itself, but control over the only thing you can ever truly master, your mind. When most people wake up, they are already losing. Their first thought is negative. Their first action is reactive. Their first habit is destructive. They grab the phone, they scroll, they compare themselves, they envy, they waste precious energy before even standing up. And that is why they never feel in control. But you are here because you want to join the 1% who understand the morning is not about convenience, it is about conquest. Let me ask you, how do you begin your day? Do you rise with dread, dragging yourself into a life you wish were different? Or do you rise with discipline, with gratitude, with fire in your soul? Epictetus declared, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This is the law of mornings. If you are not master of your first hour, you will never be master of your life. The morning is the mirror, it reflects the quality of your soul. A scattered morning produces a scattered life. A strong morning produces a strong mind. Imagine two people waking up. One hits snooze 5 times, stumbles out of bed late, checks social media, feels inadequate, rushes through breakfast, and scrambles into the day already defeated. The other wakes up early, takes a deep breath, reflects on gratitude, sets intentions, strengthens their body, and sharpens their mind before anyone else has even stirred. Which one do you think will own their destiny? Which one will bend the day to their will? The difference is not luck. The difference is not talent. The difference is the art of how they wake up. And you can choose. Right now, you can decide that your mornings are no longer accidents, they are weapons. You can decide that you will not drift like the 99% who sleepwalk through life. You will rise like the Stoics did, with presence, with silence, with awareness. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Every wasted morning is a wasted life. Every strong morning is a life claimed with force. Which one will you choose? If this message strikes something deep inside you, it is not by accident. You feel it because you know you are capable of more. You know that inside you is a version of yourself that is unshakable, disciplined, and powerful. And that version of you is born each morning, or buried each morning. This is why you must guard your mornings like your life depends on it, because it does. If you master this one practice, you master everything. Now I need you to do something before we continue, commit. Not to me, not to anyone else, but to yourself. Commit that from this day forward, your mornings will no longer be stolen by weakness. Commit that you will rise with the fire of the 1%. And if this resonates with you, make sure you don't just listen, make sure you subscribe, because this channel is where the strong are forged. Join this movement. Become part of the 1% who live with total control. Because once you taste it, you will never go back. Discipline over comfort, that is the first law of the morning. And it is brutal, because the body will always beg for more sleep, more warmth, more softness, while the soul demands strength, clarity, and direction. In that first moment when the alarm rings, you are confronted with a battlefield. Most surrender instantly. They hit snooze, they roll back into weakness, they trade a future of strength for a few stolen minutes of comfort. But the Stoic does not. The Stoic rises, not because it is easy, but because it is right. Seneca once said, "It is not that life is hard, but that we are weak." And weakness is bred in those first minutes of the day. If you conquer yourself then, you conquer yourself everywhere. The truth is, comfort is a silent poison. It lulls you into mediocrity without ever revealing the cost. Every time you give in to comfort, you are feeding a habit of weakness. And habits are not small, they are destiny. The way you train yourself in the morning is the way you will respond to every challenge life throws at you. If you cannot resist the comfort of your bed, how will you resist the temptations of distraction, laziness, or despair? If you cannot face the cold air of dawn, how will you face the storms of life? This is why the Stoics put discipline above comfort. They understood that luxury soft. When you wake and rise despite the protest of your body, you are sending a signal to your subconscious, "I am the master, not my cravings." This signal echoes through the rest of the day. You begin to walk differently. You begin to speak differently. You begin to see yourself differently, not as someone who reacts, but as someone who commands. Epictetus taught, "No man is free who cannot command himself." That freedom begins when you choose discipline over comfort in the first act of your day. Most people believe freedom means doing whatever they feel like. But that is not freedom, that is slavery to impulse. Real freedom is the ability to do what you must, even when you don't want to. It is the ability to rise in the morning with fire in your soul when every cell in your body begs for another hour of sleep. That moment is the furnace where freedom is forged. And when you choose correctly, you carry that fire into every conversation, every decision, every struggle. You are no longer tossed around by circumstance, you are the steady rock in the storm. Discipline in the morning is not about punishment, it is about empowerment. It is not about suffering for the sake of suffering, it is about conditioning your mind to rise above the pull of comfort. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, 'I have to go to work, as a human being. What do I have to complain of, if I'm going to do what I was born for?'" He saw waking early not as torture, but as duty. You were born to rise, to act, to lead, to shape your destiny, not to waste your gift in bed. Now imagine for a moment, you wake tomorrow, and the alarm sounds. Instead of groaning, instead of negotiating with your weakness, you rise instantly. You step into the cold. You embrace the discomfort. And in that moment, you have already won. While the world sleeps, you are sharpening yourself. While the 99% waste their potential, you are cultivating yours. You are telling yourself, "I am not ordinary. I am not weak. I am not owned by comfort. I am in control." And here is the paradox, the more you embrace discomfort, the more alive you feel. The more you choose discipline, the freer you become. The more you reject weakness, the stronger your soul grows. That is the law of the Stoics. They did not chase pleasure, they chased virtue, resilience, strength. They understood that comfort fades, but character lasts forever. And your mornings are where that character is carved. So I ask you again, are you waking like the 99%, or are you ready to rise as the 1%? Are you hitting snooze, or are you hitting life with full force? This is not just about motivation, it is about mastery. The path is clear. Discipline over comfort, every single morning. That is how you begin to fix your mind, and once your mind is fixed, your life follows. If this truth is burning inside you right now, let it change you. Don't just watch, decide. Tomorrow when you wake, remember these words: comfort is the enemy, discipline is the ally. Choose correctly, and you choose power. And if you want to keep walking this path, make sure you stay connected here, subscribe, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and take your stand with the 1%. Because comfort will destroy the weak, but discipline will crown the strong. And you are strong. The second law of the 1% morning is gratitude and perspective before chaos. Because if the first battle of the morning is against comfort, the second is against forgetfulness, the forgetfulness of what it truly means to be alive. Most people open their eyes and instantly rush into noise, into demands, into tasks. They forget that simply opening their eyes was not promised. They forget that this breath, this moment, this morning, is a privilege denied to millions who never woke again. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every dawn, when you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. This is not a cliché, it is a radical act of perspective. Gratitude is not weakness. Gratitude is not soft. Gratitude is the weapon that guards your mind against entitlement and resentment. When you wake and immediately ground yourself in gratitude, you are training your mind to see abundance instead of lack. And the man who sees abundance, who sees the miracle in the ordinary, cannot be broken by circumstance. Because while others are cursing their day before it begins, you are blessing yours. While others are weighed down by complaints, you are lifted up by awareness. The Stoics knew this: your mind is shaped by what you focus on. Focus on what you lack, and you will feel poor. Focus on what you have, and you will feel powerful. But gratitude in the Stoic sense is deeper than listing things you are happy about. It is not superficial positivity. It is the acknowledgement that life itself is fleeting, that every morning is borrowed, that time is the most valuable currency we hold. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Gratitude is the antidote to waste. Gratitude is the daily reminder that you cannot afford to treat this morning as disposable, because it may be the last one you receive. That thought alone should electrify your soul and sharpen your focus. Imagine this: before the phone, before the world's demands, before the chaos of obligations, you sit for a moment in silence. You breathe, and you remind yourself, I am alive. I can think. I can act. I can change. You reflect on the people you love, the opportunities before you, the lessons behind you. In that simple act, you are already richer than kings. Because most people are living blind, unaware of the treasure they hold in their hands. They chase external control while neglecting the internal control of their perception. But you are part of the 1% who choose to master perception first, before the day attempts to master you. Now consider the alternative. You wake, and the first thing you do is grab your phone. Within seconds, your mind is flooded with problems, comparisons, bad news, demands. Before you even stand up, you are already heavy with chaos. And the tragedy is, it was a choice. You chose to surrender perspective for distraction. You chose to step into battle without armor. Gratitude is the armor. Perspective is the shield. With it, the storms of the day cannot break you, because you have already set your foundation on unshakable ground. Gratitude also transforms how you face difficulty. The Stoics did not practice gratitude only for the good, they practiced gratitude for everything. They taught themselves to say, "This challenge is not a curse, it is fuel. This hardship is not punishment, it is training." Imagine beginning each morning with that mindset. Instead of resenting obstacles, you welcome them as teachers. Instead of feeling cheated by life, you feel chosen to grow. That is the Stoic art of perspective. And that is how you turn mornings into fortresses of mental strength. So when you wake tomorrow, before you move, before you rise, pause. Place your hand on your chest and feel your heartbeat. Acknowledge the miracle that it is still beating. Whisper to yourself, "I have another chance." Do this, and you will begin to notice how trivial most of your complaints are. You will begin to notice how much you already possess. And from that state of mind, you will be unstoppable, because gratitude multiplies energy, and perspective multiplies resilience. And here is your challenge: for the next 7 mornings, before you check anything, write down 3 things you are grateful for. Not generic things. Be specific. Be raw. Be real. Gratitude for a person, gratitude for the body that still carries you. Gratitude even for the pain that has shaped you. Do this, and you will feel your mornings transform from routine into ritual. From chaos into control. From weakness into strength. And if you are feeling this truth in your chest right now, then make sure you don't just let it fade. Anchor it. Subscribe, because here we build minds that do not crack under pressure. Share this with someone who needs to stop taking life for granted. Join this movement of the 1% who wake with fire, with gratitude, with perspective. Because when you start your day grounded in awareness, nothing, no insult, no challenge, no loss, can shake you from your center. You will be untouchable. The third law of the 1% morning is silence and stillness before action. The masses wake in noise, in panic, in the frantic rush of obligations. Their mornings are loud before their minds even have the chance to breathe. They leap into chaos, and then they wonder why they feel scattered, drained, unfocused. But the Stoic understands that silence is not emptiness, silence is power. Stillness is not inactivity, stillness is preparation. The rare few who embrace silence in the morning are not wasting time, they are sharpening the blade of their soul before the battle of the day begins. Marcus Aurelius himself, burdened with the weight of ruling the most powerful empire in the world, practiced stillness at dawn. He wrote in his private reflections not as a luxury, but as necessity. Because he knew that without moments of stillness, he would become a slave to impulse, to anger, to distraction. He knew that the mind must be anchored before it is thrown into the storm of politics, war, and responsibility. He anchored himself in silence. He anchored himself in thought. He anchored himself in the wisdom that no empire outside could be ruled unless the empire within was calm. And what about you? Do you give yourself even a breath of silence in the morning? Or do you let the world own your attention before you even remember who you are? The truth is, when you wake and rush straight into action without stillness, you are acting from weakness, not strength. You are reacting instead of creating. You are living in response to noise instead of rising in command of it. Silence is where you reconnect with your deepest values. Stillness is where you remember your mission. Without it, your mornings become nothing but a blur of distractions. Seneca once said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." Silence is where you learn. Stillness is where you hear your own mind without interruption. Imagine sitting at dawn, no phone, no chaos, just breath. Imagine hearing the thoughts that actually matter, the clarity that only comes when the noise fades. In that state, you are no longer controlled by the outside world. You are directing the flow of your life from the inside out. That is what Stoicism demands, not control over others, but control over yourself. And this is why silence terrifies most people. Because in silence, you face yourself. In stillness, you confront your truth. You can no longer hide behind distractions. You must acknowledge your weaknesses, your wasted time, your lack of discipline. But it is only by facing these truths that you can grow. This is why the weak avoid silence, and the strong embrace it. The weak need constant noise to avoid their reflection. The strong demand stillness to sharpen their reflection. And the morning is the most sacred time to practice this law, because it is when your mind is raw, uncluttered, unshaped by the day. So how do you practice this? Simple. When you rise, give yourself the first 10 minutes in silence. No music, no phone, no talking. Just stillness. Breathe. Reflect. Ask yourself, what matters most today? Who do I want to be when the challenges come? What virtues do I need to embody? This practice is not mystical, it is practical. It is the difference between being pulled by the chaos of life and pushing back with clarity. It is the difference between weakness and strength, between drifting and direction. Imagine two men. The first wakes and instantly drowns in noise, news, notifications, chatter. His mind is scattered before the day even begins. The second wakes and sits in silence. He breathes. He reflects. He grounds himself. His mind becomes a fortress. By the time he steps into the world, no insult can shake him, no distraction can move him, no chaos can break him. Which man do you want to be? Which man will shape destiny, and which will be shaped by it? This is the secret the 1% know. Silence is not a pause, it is power. Stillness is not wasted time, it is mastery. And if you adopt this law, your mornings will transform from random noise into deliberate symphonies of focus. You will no longer be dragged into the day, you will enter it like a general marching into battle, calm, steady, unshakable. So tomorrow, when you rise, before you speak, before you scroll, before you rush, sit in silence. Listen. Reflect. Command your mind. And if this truth is striking you right now, anchor it by making a decision, that your mornings will no longer be rushed, no longer be scattered, no longer be stolen by noise. They will be yours. They will be sacred. And if you are ready to join the rare few who live like this, then stay connected here. Subscribe, not because it is trendy, but because this is where warriors are forged, where the 1% gather, where silence becomes strength. The fourth law of the 1% morning is intentional reflection, journaling to master the mind before the world can enslave it. The Stoics did not wake and drift into random thought. They wrote. They reflected. They sharpened their philosophy not in public speeches but in private pages. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, one of the most powerful works of Stoicism ever created, was never meant for the world to read. It was his private journal. His private battlefield. His morning weapon to anchor himself in reason, virtue, and clarity. That is the secret. The world's most disciplined emperor began each day with words written to himself. And why? Because thought left unexamined becomes chaos. If you do not examine your thoughts will control you. If you do not reflect, you will drift. Journaling is not about recording events, it is about shaping perception. It is about reminding yourself of who you are, what you value, and how you will face the storms of life. Epictetus declared, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Journaling is where you say to yourself who you will be. It is where you give yourself the orders you must obey. Most people wake and let their emotions dictate their day. They feel anxious, so they stay anxious. They feel weak, so they stay weak. But the Stoic knows that emotions are not commands, they are signals.